Well, good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our webinar for October. This is all part of our Servitization Live webinar series, where we focus particularly on servitization and advanced services. I'm delighted today that we have two co-hosts along with me today, one leading academic and one leading senior executive from industry. And both will share their experiences of creating the force field analysis work around servitization and their practice and the impact that it has made on the business. Well, if I just move to first slide. We have very simple structure today. I will do the introduction and the hosting. I'll introduce Dr. Kawal Kapoor to lead on the session of force field analysis. I'll then invite Almudena Marcos Bardera to express her experiences of using force field analysis within Omron in a European context. And then we'll have a time for a Q&A session towards the end, and then I will close the session more or less bang on 3 o'clock. I'm Ian McKechnie. I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships at the Advanced Services Group at Aston Business School. And I'm delighted that we've got Dr. Kawal Kapoor, who is a Partnership Research Manager at the Advanced Services Group Limited, a specialist advisory firm that work with industry to help them adopt new business models around about servitization practice. We've also got Almudena Marcos Bardera from Madrid, from Omron, and Almudena is the EMEA Services Business Development Manager. We've worked with Almudena for about 3 years now, a fantastic working relationship, transferring the academic research from within the Advanced Services Group out into industry. Where it all began, we have an Executive Director, Professor Tim Baines. Tim is perhaps the most cited academic in the world on the term servitization and advanced services. Almost 9 years ago, he wrote the book Made to Serve, which was a leading textbook on transforming technology-based businesses to help them compete through the adoption of services. We are based in Birmingham in the UK. We're a centre of excellence at the business school, and we focus exclusively on servitization and advanced services. A lot of that is supported by our participation in funded research programmes coming either from UK research councils for the academic work or from people like Innovate UK who fund and support industrial-led research and development projects. But we have about a group of 20 within the Advanced Services Group and an extended group of 30, which includes leading experts from industry who we appoint as visiting professors or senior industrial fellows, and they help us with the cases to justify the investment in time and resources in new business models. Some of the work that we are involved in includes global partners. We have a partnership model where we have a group of 10 non-competing businesses who we work with throughout the year, helping them build their own business models. But we also use regional funding monies to allow us to work with smaller firms where they have exactly the same challenges. It's all about how do they achieve growth, make their customers more successful, and scale up the services that they can offer to the marketplace. But one of the big challenges that we constantly come across is this elephant in the room, is that a lot of firms, a lot of individuals have not heard of the term servitization or particularly advanced services, and therefore they don't realise either benefits that it would bring to the business or where they should start that process of servitization. So the Advanced Services Group are specialists in capturing that research and translating that into usable bite-sized materials that can be used by industry practitioners. A really good example is Kawal, as the author of this mini guide, sets out the context for using force field analysis in this way, and also the 6 steps that you could follow to allow you to work in your own way. One of the things that we'll do today is, if you notice the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, we'll use that to capture your questions throughout the session, and I will facilitate the Q&A with both Carol and Almudena as we go through. So can I hand over at this point to you, Carol, to give the background and the context to the Servitization mini guide on force field analysis?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ian. Just going to check if I have enough control of the screen. Okay, it looks like I'll need help moving the slides. So Ian, if you can do that for me, that'd be great. Or maybe I did this. Anyway, okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for making the time today. And I'm very pleased to see so many of you here. Right, so I'm here to talk you through our latest mini guide on force field analysis. And let me begin by showing you what you can expect to see in this mini guide. So the concept of force field analysis is introduced, and then we discuss how it fits with the servitization journey and what makes it a relevant framework when making assessments about service transformations. We also map out a detailed process for applying this analysis in practice, and there are several steps, and each step is explained in detail, and there is a worked example that follows through the mini guide, and there are also worksheets within the mini guide, so which are reflecting each of these steps. So these worksheets, these steps will allow you to take away this mini guide and conveniently apply the framework to assess your own business scenarios. Right. You can move the slide. Right. Okay. So it was Kurt Lewin in the early 50s who created this tool. It is a decision-making tool, and businesses use it today for making and even communicating go/no-go decisions. So generally, when people have, a difficult or a challenging decision to make, they tend to hash through a list of positives and negatives. And if you've ever made one of these lists, you already know that it doesn't offer the optimal solution. Now, if your list, let's say, has 5 positives and there are 2 negatives, just because you have more positives than negatives, it is not to say that this is the best decision for you to go ahead with, because one or even both of those negatives may be a lot more significant or a lot more important than the 5 positives that you've identified altogether. And this is exactly why change leaders, the servitization champions within organizations, need something more effective, something more structured than just a pros and cons list. They need a decision-making technique that will improve the quality of the decisions, that will increase their chances of their success. And force field analysis is a technique that helps businesses think about the factors or the forces, as we call them here in the mini guide, forces for and forces against the decision in question. So the 4 forces are what we call the driving forces in the mini guide, and then we're using the term restraining forces to address the against forces, if that makes sense. So think of these as the forces that drive change and those that are resisting change. And these forces can be internal, they can be external. Now, internal forces are likely to be more within the control of an organization, but external forces, not so much. So, if something like internal processes is in question, then an organization has more control over it. But if we start talking about consumer patterns or shifting market trends, that's something an organization doesn't have as much control over. So the individuals, the team identifying these forces is now likely to make well-informed decisions, because now they can see how each of the forces that they've identified in this, 4 forces and against forces in their list can actually affect the desired outcome. And they can then think of what can be done to achieve that desired outcome in terms of actions. Right. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now, the notion of equilibrium is very important for force field analysis, and it is a part of the world we live in, and there is a good bit of science behind the concept. Now, the fact is that for every reaction, there are opposing forces that are looking to balance the equation. Think of a tightrope walker. So to be in the upright position, for them to be standing on the tightrope, there are driving forces, the way they're using their arms, the speed with which they're looking to walk, many other things that are helping them balance their center of gravity. And at the same time, there are forces that are acting against them that can disrupt that balance, that can cause them to fall off the tightrope. So if the walker starts to swing their arms too much, or if they're not very cautious about how they are planting their feet, they're going to fall off. And force field analysis captures both of these for and against forces in a visually clear way. So driving forces on one side, restraining forces on the other side, and the current state is represented by the balance between these two sets of forces. But for change to happen, for an organization to move away from the current state, this equilibrium, this balance needs to be disrupted. So what we want is the driving forces to outweigh the restraining forces. They need to be higher in intensity, stronger in intensity than the restraining forces, so that there is a shift towards the desired future state, the future, the desired outcome that you're looking to achieve. If we move to the next slide, please. Now, for the survival of any business, and more importantly, when you're looking at growing a business, when you're looking at scaling a business needs to be able to manage change. They need to be really good at managing that change. And in this mini guide, we are focusing on organizational change that every business aspiring to servitize, interested in servitization, has to face. There is no escape, and they have to be able to manage it well. And it is no secret that servitization is a complex transformation. It can be messy. And many times, these servitization champions or executives who are actually rooting for servitization struggle to get their message across within the organization. They struggle with managing this organizational change. And this change, this organizational change, is absolutely essential for a product-centric business to actually see the elements of services being integrated within the organization. And most of the times, it's not clear to these executives as to what can they do to move the project forward. What should they do next? What should be their focus? Which actions would be the best at which point? So what to do, what not to do, and what is it that would keep the project moving along so the project is not stalling. And this is where force field analysis adds value. It is a systematic technique. It will look at the driving forces and restraining forces that have a specific influence on the process of organizational change. And in this mini guide, we're blending the concept of force field analysis with several servitization frameworks. So be it the elements of business model framework or the transformation roadmap. Now, the transformation roadmap is reflecting the stages of maturity that an organization goes through as it servitizes. So we've stitched them together. We've developed a tool. We've tailored it to servitization now, which is what you're seeing on your screen right now. And the mini guide has several pointers. It has several tips to help you thinking on which driving forces or which restraining forces you should be focusing in the servitization context. Are they the market-centric forces? Are they technology-centric? Or are they the ones sitting in your value network, or those within your organization? And the mini guide has examples of what these forces look like, what they could be, what is the positive or negative impact they can have on the progress of a service innovation. And these examples are there to help you think of similar forces that are affecting your business scenarios, to help you position them across these macro forces so you can assess organizational change specific to your business. And if we go to the next slide, can somebody help me with the slide, please? Thank you. Now, in all of the slides you've seen so far, there's been a statement in the white box in the middle, and this is where you describe in clear and simple words the future state you want your service innovation to be in. And getting this right is very important, because then the identification of driving and restraining forces that follows is focused on this very description in the middle. You don't get this description right, it is very likely that the forces that you've identified on the either side are not the true reflection of the future outcome that you want to achieve. So again, within the mini guide, there are pointers to help you and your team members get this description of the future state right. It gets you to focus on the service innovation. It gets you to see where it is struggling presently and where you'd like to see the service innovation in the future. Now, if we move on to the next slide. The process for applying this analysis in practice is a simple one. 6 very effective steps, and each step is explained in great detail within the mini guide. The rationale behind each step is explained. You've given references to use which worksheet for which step, when, and how. Everything has been explained. And there is, what we've done is there are dedicated tips for each step to help you get them right, to help you and your team easily navigate through the entire process. So I'll move on to the next slide, please. Now, when you start with the 6-step analysis, you begin in the middle, the center, which we've spoken about, the description of the future state you want your service innovation to be in. But when you're identifying the driving and restraining forces, they have to reflect the current state. What is happening within your business now that can drive or hinder the state of the service innovation in the future? This is because what you have now determines the actions that you will be taking now to achieve the desired outcome in the future. Now you'll identify, you'll list all of the driving forces on the left, you'll list the restraining forces on the right, then you and your team will spend time scoring each of these forces, because it is this score that will show you how much impact each force is having on the goal that you've established for your service innovation. And at this point, you can see how the notion of equilibrium is coming to light. Now, change is not going to take place and a project is not going to progress if the total of the driving forces is equal to the total of the restraining forces on your worksheet. Your aim or your goal here is now, as an organization, if you want to create change, then you have to unbalance this score. You have to disrupt this equilibrium. So your job is now to, if we move to the next slide, please. So your job is now to make sure that the score of the driving forces are going to outweigh the score of the restraining forces. And then the likelihood is that your organization will make the change, and there will be progress in the direction of the shift that you want to achieve. Now, this entire concept of an equilibrium, this can be removed by taking actions, and these actions will be for you to strengthen the forces that you've identified as driving forces that are supporting your service innovation currently, and at the same time weaken the forces that you've identified as restraining forces. These opposing forces, you have to make them weaker. And this means you and your team are going to come up with an extensive list of future actions that will help progress your service innovation. And what you're seeing on the screen right now is an ease and impact graph with several future actions plotted out. And the mini guide has detailed instructions on how to plot this graph. And more importantly, having plotted this graph, the key now is to prioritize the immediate actions that you can take as a team that you agree are feasible, and after careful consideration of any resource or any time scale or other constraints that might come in the way. So in summary, this is what the mini guide contains. And I think this is a good point for me to now hand over to Almudena and put you in her good hands. So as Ian introduced earlier, Almudena is the Services Business Development Manager for Omron. And Omron is a member of the Advanced Services Group Partnership, and she's kindly offered to demonstrate how the learnings, and more importantly, the Servitization Force Field Analysis decision-making framework that we proposed in a mini guide can be applied in practice. So the floor is yours, Almudena.
Thank you, Kawei, for the great introduction. And thank you, everybody here, just to join the session and to listen to us. So I don't know if I have now control on the slide. Maybe no. So maybe somebody can just move to the next one. Okay, thank you. So I want just to give to everybody here a short introduction about my company, Omron. And the thing is that more than explaining to you what are exactly the total solution or the total product portfolio that we can provide, because you can just Google Omron, and I'm pretty sure that you will find thousands of entrances about what Omron is doing. I think it's something more interesting for myself and also for the audience to know a little bit more about Omron DNA, Omron values, Omron mission and vision, and why we are also quite unique in comparison with our competitors. And the main reason is, of course, in addition to the portfolio, we are different because our founder, you could see his picture, Kazuma Tateishi, he was a great leader. Omron was founded 100 years ago in Japan, and this peculiar person, this leader, combined in himself two passions. One was in relation to the technology and to the innovation, and due to so, he put Omron in the top position in comparison with our competitors in innovation and in technology in the automotive industry, in the automation industry, sorry. And then the other passion of or the leader of Kazuma Tateishi was people. So everything that people and society, everything that he tried to create based on innovation and in technology was mainly focused on improve human life and improve society. So as I say, something that really distinguishes Omron is, of course, our technological and innovative eyes, but of course it is also, as I mentioned, our mission vision. And let me also share with you something that is, if you can move to the next, please. I want to share with you something that is quite fundamental, that is the strategical plan in which we have been working now, that we call Shaping the Future 2030. So the video that you will watch will take only 2 minutes. Please follow that.
Omron's vision of the future of automation, where people can be bold, where they can do more, try more, be more. We're making a world where anyone can go for their dreams. Empowering people through automation, where everyone has access to renewable energy, whenever they need it. An eco-friendly, sustainable world where you don't have to make hard choices about the energy you use. Where advanced technology turns workplaces into creative spaces. And people's potential is realized. Where industries can grow, where they can evolve. Where health monitoring is automated, allowing anyone to get medical advice from the best specialists in the world. Wherever they are. All you need to do is whatever you want to do. In this world, you, him, them, everyone lives the full. And the community, the environment, the whole world becomes a better place. Omron is making all of this possible. Yeah, all of this is happening right now. Omron is creating a future where society can grow and individuals can flourish. Empowering people through automation. Excited? You should be. Shaping the future, 2030. Omron.
Well, empowering people through automation, that is exactly our goal here, and is part of our effort 2030. The thing is that you can realize how important it is for us, for our company, Omron, just to embed it as part of our strategy, not only the product development or the technology development or the solution development, is now a different angle in which we see like a must, the necessity just to implement the servicialization journey, because the thing that we want to achieve in the end is being able to offer to customers valuable outcome. And it is again in connection with adding value to human and to society. And next question that I want to think about is why the force field analysis, that is in connection to the great presentation from Kawal. So let me say that my background, I am engineering from the university, first degree, but also I have a degree in psychology. And the thing is that I realized, and maybe majority of people here in the discussion, that one of the factors that are fundamental in the transformation of any business or in the right or not right implementation of any strategy is people. And as Peter Drucker mentioned in this quote, I am more interested in people than in how a business works. And it's also happening, as I say, in the journey of Omron and in the big transformation by using servicialization and by adopting advanced services. And the why of force field analysis is exactly, and the answer is exactly in connection with that. I love all the things that are in relation to chain management. And I realized that in the journey of integrating servicialization for the industry, the human factor is fundamental. And I'm pretty sure that you know thousands of different types of chain management approach of method. But for me, force fields analysis is quite unique, and you will understand the reason for that in the practical way in which we have been tried to implement and to use as part of our journey. Next, please. So, you know, we started with advanced services at Aston University almost 3 years ago. And we started as majority of people that try to implement servicialization in industry. We started with the application of this transformation roadmap. And at the beginning, when we started, we really think that exploration and enjoyment could be the most difficult part on the implementation of servicialization within the industry. But then we realized that when almost we finalized the enjoyment process within Omron, we realized that the expansion was absolutely also a big challenge. And again, is in relation to understand what are forces that have been helping us just to move to the next step, and what are forces that have been just pushing back in moving to the expansion of the services. And we found, thanks to Kawai, the force field analysis, and we start just to use in practice. So next. Maybe another question mark that you have in your mind is, okay, in the servicialization journey, there are companies and there are also people and departments that have different levels in the maturity. Where are we? Where are you? So, and everybody start from the beginning, of course, and everybody in the companies start with base services. And if we just look to the image with the 3 levels of services, base services, intermediate services, and advanced services. So the thing is that we are now in Omron really focused on the advanced services implementation. And the thing is that, of course, we start for the basic services. And also, let me mention to you that Omron is a worldwide company, global company, that is quite big in a number of customers, employees, sites, etc. And it makes for Omron a really complex company also in the organization. Meaning for that is the level of maturity of the different entities is also quite different. And we realized also that the force field analysis tool is able to help us not only in the level of advanced services, is able just to help us on the different stage in which maybe you are now, in the base services, in the intermediate services. And just let me go to practical and real examples that will give to you a little bit more of information about how to use in practice, in business, in real world, this force field analysis tool. Next, please. So the first case that we want to share with you is a case that is in relation to one of our national sales offices, and is in relation to base services. It's not yet in relation to advanced services. And let me say that I mentioned that Omron is a complex organization, and in the case of Europe, we have 20 different national sales centers. And of course, the level of maturity and also the different approach in relation to services is still a little bit different and depends on a lot of factors that sometimes are difficult to handle. But the thing is that in the case of Poland, next please, the thing that we want to achieve in connection with the general managers and the salespeople, we really want just to make a big transformation in the way in which we present Omron in the Poland market. And the thing that we want to do is something that is under our control, that is being able just to include the services offered, the services portfolio as part of 100 of our opportunities and our quotes. Seems to be a really, big goal, but I think that we have to try to dream really high, and we have to try just to make the transformation, as I say, in a way that really has a lot of meaning for the salespeople in Poland. And the thing that we did just to apply this tool, that, as I say, for me is really amazing, because you can just use the tool, putting the right stakeholder in the discussion and helping the people within maybe no more than 2 hours to understand what are the things that we should improve and what are the things in which we have to work just to support in the positive side and to minimize in the negative side. And as I say, it's quite magic, because it takes for us no more than 2 hours to make this exercise. So as Kawai explained, just with the objective that we have is offer services in 100% of our opportunities to our customer. We start to brainstorming with as I mentioned, the stakeholder and the people that really can influence that. And we start, if you look to the left part of the slide, with the force that in this moment have been supporting just to achieve the goal. And we just list a list of activities that we have been doing well and that sure will help on achieving the goal. First one is proof of concept. So Omron has been delivering really high quality proof of concept services. And the value of this proof of concept services is that we minimize the risk of our customer when they want to use new technology for new applications. So it's something that is a high value for our customer, and is more in relation to the discipline to start to use that. But it's absolutely a positive force that we can use on that. More things that we can just use internally to support on this goal. We are really expert in total solution. As I mentioned to you in the brief explanation, Omron is also quite unique in comparison with our competitor, because our portfolio is able to cover every or the majority of necessity that from the technological point of view, any customer in any type of industry need. Meaning for that is that we are, in the majority of the case, we are capable to offer to the customer an unique contact point and unique provider. So it's something also to take into account. We also are extremely good in something that is unique in Omron in comparison with the rest of competitor in market, that we are great consultant in safety services. And due to the requirements also from legal perspective in the industry, there are more and more customers that has been asking for this type of services. So it's also an additional point that we can offer to our customer. So you know also that in technology is quite, in this moment in the industry, is a high revolution, the use of robots, just to improve efficiency, improve productivity, and just to solve a lot of issues in relation to, for example, availability of resources, etc. So we deliver also technology for robots, fixed and mobile. And of course, we can deliver also training that help customers to skill up their expertise. We have a high motivation on use also services as part of our differentiation factor in comparison with other options in the market. We also are able to recognize that our customers are also some of customers in the same journey as us, meaning for that they have been also working in the servitization journey. So they are more and more open and aware about how important is embedded services as part of the full equation. And we can also offer maintenance contract for the product and solution that we deliver. So we just list altogether, as I say, within 2 hours, the list of these forces that help to achieve the goal. We then just in an easy way score each one of these forces, and in total, the positive force that has been helping us on this case, you could see we have 18 points there. Okay, so then we try just to list the forces that are against to achieve the goal of offering services in 100% of the board. And the people that were in the brainstorming, in the discussion, they say, okay, there is a lack of internal knowledge about what the on-run services portfolio is. So it was a great feedback for us because it's also in relation to internal communication. Sometimes we just create the best or the most beautiful services menu, but sometimes you don't make a big effort in communicate properly internally in front of salespeople. So it was a great feedback also for us. They also say that sometimes the item codes for services are complex, so salespeople really don't know how to include as part of the quote. They also mentioned that in some cases, they realized that customers try to be focused on product and they don't have the holistic view and understanding what are the benefits for them in using the combination by product and services system. They also mentioned internally, and again, it was a good feedback for us, for the services development team, is that they perceive internally or salespeople that sometimes the reaction for the time in deliver quality services is not the one that they expect. So it's really a good, as I say, feedback to improve, and it's sometimes more in relation to the right communication that maybe is not in place. They also realize, or salespeople in Poland, that there are customers that are really focused on short term, and they are really focused and accept only in prices, and they don't really want just to discuss about the bigger picture. So it is a reality, of course, and it also helps us just to, in the customer segmentation and also in just the internal customer classification, be more precise on with which customer we can try to find a win-win solution, business solution. Then there is also something that our sales people realize, that sometimes we don't find the right customer persona just for discussing about services. And it also helps us a lot on understanding the way in which we should identify the stakeholder in customer side. And maybe it's not always on the level of engineering. We have to move to other levels like a manufacturer manager or operational manager that maybe are more interested on seeing the total picture of the on-run value proposition. And there is also an issue that it's happened in every company, that sometimes the people that is in charge of promoting services in the organization are people that are also in charge of other activities. So sometimes it's for them difficult to find the right time to put the right attention on the topics. So, okay, we just did the list, as I mentioned, and we scored the topics that in this case are against the goal, and we can see the total amount, 22. So clearly, and as Tawei explained, visually and in an easy way, everybody in the room understands that, okay, we have a clear goal that seems to be quite easy just to achieve, but if we don't do anything, and we don't do anything trying to maximize the force or the weight of the force that has been helping us, that are the one in the left part, or we don't do anything, any tactics, just to try to minimize the force against to achieve the goal, nothing will happen, because clearly the weight of this balance is in the side of the force against to achieve the goal. And as Kawai mentioned, if you can just move to the next, please. So the power of the tool is first in connection with, in an easy way, you can really put the people together, and you can also, without investing a lot of time, trying to identify exactly what are the points that you should take into account and the things that you should touch just to make the balance, or just put the balance on the level that you want. And then, of course, after making the first part of the exercise, tactics should come. Tactics and working plan should come from that. And it is also quite easy just to implement that and implement all together, and being able just to not to create my own plan. Is more in relation to create a plan, in this case, that resonate in the case of or a national sales office. And you could see here as example that in the case of positive force, we already create a list of three tactics. First one is in relation to the proof of concept, and we already started just an exercise to internally and externally promote the value of these services. In relation to safety services, we want also, and we started to do, to clearly identify the value proposition and the promotion in front of customers, because as we say, sometimes it's in relation to communication. And also we realized that we needed to implement and to facilitate internal workshop for our salespeople, in which we explain again our service menu, the value proposition for the customer, and the win-win position in which we can put on-run, and we can put every customer here for the having the promotion of product plus services system. And we did also saying, of course, with the negative force, we created tactics with 3 tactics, as you could see here. And first one is in relation to simplify the item codes that we have just to quote and to promote services within our CRM system. We also decided just to identify again the clear value proposition and explain in a way that really resonate in the main of our salespeople, helping them just to present this value proposition in front of customer. And also, as I mentioned, just to review the customer segment and being able to identify the right stakeholder in the customer side, in order we can just being able to offer the product and services system and not product alone anymore. So that is the first example about the force field analysis. And I want to invite Kawai, if you want to mention something, if you want just to remark anything about that.
Thank you, Albertina. This is great. I wanted to jump in. I looked at the time and I probably thought I'd let you get on with it. But yeah, very quickly, I mean, you've been telling that, you know, the whole exercise probably took you 2 hours. And I think what it's important to actually highlight at this point that, you know, it's really important whom we involve in the exercise. So did you like, how easy or difficult was it for you to choose, you know, whom to bring into the exercise? Was it a whole process in itself, or was it easy to pinpoint?
Good question, Kawai. The thing is that it doesn't happen from one day to another. I mean, there was a plan that we tried to implement maybe 2 years and a half ago, and it was exactly at the beginning of COVID. And people was quite enthusiastic and quite supportive. But then due to COVID, a lot of things happened that nobody needs to extra explain. But it was a little bit of disconnection in comparison with the plan that we had at the beginning. So the stakeholders were clearly identified in the side of the national sales offices. And I think that everybody knows everybody, and the goal for us was a common goal, let's say, on that way.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I ask you is because I just wanted to highlight to everyone present here today that this process can help you get buy-in from across an organization. So if you're not careful about involving all the relevant stakeholders, then you're essentially risking the implementation of the actions coming out of this process. So there may be resistance from, you know, people within the organization, and especially if these are the people who are key influencers, then you may have lost the chance of having them on board by not including them in the process. So it's very important to ask yourselves if you involve the right group of people to investigate this challenge with the new service you have. that's it, Almadina. So I'll let you get on with the next example.
Thank you so much, Kaiwei. And I think that we will have also the chance just to discuss a little bit more with the second case. If you can just go to the next, please. As I mentioned, we want just to provide to the audience real examples about how we use this tool, the force field analysis, in business. And I mentioned that the second example, we try just to put 3 examples based on different types of services. The second one is in relation to intermediate services. If you can go to the next, please. Yeah, and let me say that one of the things that we have been working with is in just providing high quality services for our global customers. And as I mentioned at the beginning, Omron is a really big and complex company. And in the same that we have different national sales organizations within Europe, we also have worldwide 5 different regions. And in the 5 different regions, of course, there is a common strategy, but there is also, in the case of services, still a little bit of differences in focus and also maybe in speed of implementation. So one of the goals that we have from Omron is assuring high quality services for, as I mentioned, global accounts, global customer, meaning for that is assuring services to this customer when there are issues or there are potential opportunities cross-border, meaning between Omron Europe and any other of the regions worldwide. So in this example, we have a services that we call consultation desk services that is intended to support global customer when they manufacture a solution or production line here in Europe and they export globally. And the thing that we want to assure is a smooth process in the implementation of our services, or of our solution outside of Europe. And also we want to assure after-sales services in a really fast way. So we create these services that we call consultation desk services. And the thing that we want to assure is high quality, as I mentioned, and we want always, and when I say always, I mean 100% of the case to assure the customer a really fast reaction within 2 working days. So that is the goal. But we realize that in the case of issues or challenge that we have with some customer in Omron America, not in 100% of the cases we keep these 2 days. There are cases in which maybe the ratio is around 90% of the cases. So we want to just move the quality on that level. So in this case, we put together on the table to discuss Omron America people and Omron Europe people, and we just fix this goal. And we just follow same process that Kaiwei explained, and I will try just to go really fast on that. It's not needed in order everybody could have then time for the open discussion here. So we just follow same process, quite simple, no more than 2 hours. We involve the right stakeholder. We conclude with the list of force that in this moment have been supporting to achieve the goal in the left part, and we also conclude with the force that are against to achieve the goal that we have. And then you could see here that just scoring, we just did the score altogether, and the total score, now the surprise is that we had 24-24. So clearly, if we don't do anything with all these positive things and with all these things that are against that, we will not be able to achieve the goal that we have been in 100% of the case, being able to respond to our customer worldwide within 2 working days. So next, please. After the conclusion, again, and after just looking for the issues and the positive force, we just agree on making again the tactics, because as Kaiwei mentioned, so if we don't do anything, nothing will happen. So clearly we identified 2 tactics in this case, just for supporting in the positive force, and 2 tactics just to minimize the negative force that have been against the goal. And you could see that, okay, there are tactics, and after the tactics, of course, is something that I did not mention before. We create PDCA cycles, 1 per month. So we, from Omron Europe, in connection with the owner of these services within America, we have been having a PDCA session, meeting session, just to check the status of these 4 tactics that we already decide to implement together. And we expect just to move slowly during the rest of the year. And we expect really just to finalize all this type of transformation before the end of this natural year. So that is the summary from my side in this case, Kawai. And maybe you can just add something or to mention something.
With these tactics, Almudena, so have they been already implemented? Is there a time frame that you've set that, when you want to achieve these?
Yeah, the two tactics, because the services is in place, and the services is in place now for the last 5 years. But the thing that we want to achieve is just making bigger the quality of the services and being right. I mean, being on the promise that we do to customer, that is being in contact with customer within 2 working days. We are not in the 100% of the case, we are a little bit lower. So we want to assure 100% of the case. Yeah, and our goal is having that, all the tactics finalized at the end of the year, but then we have to measure if it works in real.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And with this process, folks, it's as with many of the processes, it always helps to set timeframes because they help manage expectations, not just internally, but also with your other stakeholders. So the team is prepared, the team is motivated, given the realistic target set for the company. The other stakeholders are prepared in terms of what results could follow next, when to expect this, and all of this together helps reduce the instances of what we were talking about, stalled service innovations. So that's where I was getting at. Thanks, Almudena. We'll go to the next one.
Yeah. Thanks to you.
Carol, Almudena, I'm mindful of time.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, because we've given such detail to cases 1 and 2, could we move to the Q&A, because we've got a whole stream of questions coming in that I think obviously it would be a really good opportunity for us to respond back to them. Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
Lovely, thanks, Almudena. So let me just pick up on one of the first questions that come through, Almudena. And this was from Andrea, and they're mentioning about the benefits of force field analysis, but how to best balance the subjective versus objective aspects during the force field analysis process. Is there any guidance you could give, perhaps you or Carol, about how to balance that subjective view?
Almudena, you want to go first?
And something that we realize in the practical use of the force field analysis is that at the beginning we try to list all the things that are floating in a way, that have been supporting or have been in a way pushing back. But the reality is that we only can be focused on the things that we can influence. So we try just to clean a little bit, and we try just to put on the list the things in which we can really work and impact. And it could be objective, subjective, internal, external, but in the end it's common sense, and try to use the tool in a way that really resonate in the mind of everybody, because everybody see that they have the capability to influence on that. I don't know if it is the answer to your question, and maybe Kawal want to mention something else.
Okay, Carol.
Yeah, Ian, I'm going to reinforce what Almudena is saying, because I think the answer to this question is in parts. You have to get your future state right. You have to involve the right group of people. And once you've done that, I think one of the strengths of this tool is that it helps, it facilitates communication. It kicks off the right conversations between the people, the key people that are involved in this exercise. And then they manage the subjectivity and objectivity in the actions or the future actions that are basically being proposed. So I think the level of governance and management kicks in automatically once the process goes through. And another reason that this mini guide is very useful is because there are tips in there that clearly inform you about when you're thinking of these forces, when you're thinking about these actions. Because we've dedicated this mini guide to servitization, there are clear directions and examples as to which forces or which type of actions you should be looking at. So there is guidance available for anybody who wants to use it, but it all comes down to self-management in the end.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Just to pick up very quickly on one question from Chris. Chris was asking how to determine the score of a force. Is that an average scoring of the individuals at the brainstorming? Chris, for that question, the guide actually has the 5 characteristics that you would use, but they all focus on the likely impact. So again, the mini guide has that in place. Anything you would want to add to that, Carol?
I mean, it can be something as basic, as simple as, how we've shown some of my illustrations just showed, you're going from low impact to high impact and scoring across a scale. But then we've also recommended the use of Pareto analysis. So Pareto voting. So a lot can be brought in terms of averaging the scores that the group of that the group of people or the team that are sitting together and scoring this. So you could go down the average scores and determine a score for each force, or you could do Pareto analysis. And honestly, this tool is very flexible. Anything that your team agrees with and helps you achieve that score, which ultimately gives you that sense check of what is the current state of equilibrium and how you can disrupt it, basically works. Again, lots of guidance in the mini guide.
Okay, thanks, Carol. Al-Madina, a question for you. This is one from Neil, and it's saying, for Omron, has it been considered how the sales and markets team are incentivized to prioritize revenue from services as well as product sales? Is that something you can respond to, please?
Yeah, our goal is not, let me say, just to prioritize in services revenue track. I mean, it is the consequence of making things in a different way. So the thing that we really want to do is being able to create the right value proposition by combining product and services. And then the consequence absolutely is that we are going to increase extremely the services revenue stream, but it's not our goal at all. Our goal is a little bit different.
Okay, thank you. And we've got a really good question from Christian that I think perhaps both of you may need to respond to. Christian's asking, how can you identify non-obvious or non-visible forces? Have you got any experience of that?
Yeah, if I can say, of course, it's so important, to have an eyes on things that maybe are invisible in this moment. But if we are absolutely focused only on trying to put visible the things that are now invisible, we will lose the chance just to do we will lose the chance just to do really something on the things that are obvious. So I think that if we start to work with the obvious things, you will move to a different position. You will understand much better the issues, the circumstances, the necessities from customer, the internal ones. And due to that, maybe the invisible issues will make visible. So my personal approach is I am not really worried, really focused on the invisibility. I am more practical, sorry to say so.
That's okay. Thank you. I've just noticed that there was a comment about the link wasn't working to take you to the mini guide. So we'll make sure that you get the proper link in the follow-up email, including a copy of the recording. Another question from Andrea was, would you recommend that you engage somebody external to the company as a facilitator of the force field analysis? I think answering that from an advanced services group perspective, I would say yes. We have experts like Carol and others within the group that can easily help firms move along that transformation. Al-Madina, your own experience of using the mini guide and the steps?
Of course, the answer is yes. I think that Carol is, the best person just to facilitate the use of the tool anywhere. And the good thing is that the tool is quite simple, and you will not require Carol for the years in the company to make a good use of the tool, and it will be quite simple. But of course, the support from Carol is amazing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm just mindful, everyone, that we've got about 10 seconds left of the webinar because of the really good questions and the detail that both Al-Madina and Carol went into. We will copy the questions that came on to the Q&A function. We will provide a written response to these in due course, and you will get a copy of the recording, and details including how to find the mini guide, the advanced services group, and Omron's experiences will be on the website and included. So thank you all for your attention this afternoon. I hope you found it as engaging as I did. And one big thank you again to Al Medina, to Carol, and to Christina behind the scenes for all the hard work. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.